Howdy folks, Kdog here for another Kdog's Movies. And today we're going to be a little nostalgic. Of course, you know, I've always talked about older movies and whatnot. But this is actually a newer movie that plays on our nostalgic feelings and is a true love letter to a classic. There's something strange in the neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters Afterlife. Yeah, released just this past year. Just this past year. It was originally supposed to come out during the pandemic, but, well, we're still in the middle of the pandemic, but it was supposed to come out in 2020, but because of theaters being shut down, Sony decided to make the correct decision and move the film to 2021 when things could open back up and whatnot. But yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife. And wow, what a treat this movie is. If you are a remote Ghostbusters fan, you will love this. It's a great, great, entertaining movie that plays on the pure nostalgia of Ghostbusters. The film, I'm trying to describe it. First of all, you're bringing on some of the original people who were involved with this movie. It does have a new director. However, it is the son of the original film's director. It is by Jason Reitman, who has made his own staple as a director himself, and directing several serious movies and whatnot. He definitely has made his mark as a director, and with his dad as the producer, Ivan Reitman, they were able to concoct a movie that was very, very tugging at our heartstrings for the original movie. The film takes place present day in the middle of nowhere. We see this family of a mother and her two children. The mother, played by Carrie, what's her name? Carrie Coon. I'm sorry. They're living in this apartment with her son, her son Trevor, played by Finn Wolfhard, and her daughter McKenna Grace. They find out that they're being evicted from their apartment and forced to move and live to this small town in an abandoned farmhouse. And it turns out her father, the mother's father, had owned the property, and there were some weird things going on. And matter of fact, the people in the small town even kind of thought that the guy was a weirdo and didn't do much. He would maybe come into town for a few supplies and go on his way back to hibernating in the farm. And they kind of thought he was an old hermit and just not very sociable. And as time goes on, the kids begin to get nosy of what's going on, of some of the things that's at the farm. And they find all this equipment and like this bizarre equipment, and like the proton packs and traps and things like that happening around. And then you soon find out that this family is the descendants of Egon Spangler, Harold Ramis's character from the original Ghostbusters. First of all, this is going to be a kind of a spoiler review here. Yeah, you find out that they are that the kids are the grandchildren of Egon Spangler. They themselves do not know this because the mother had a bitter falling out with her father. Yeah, it's the mother is Egon's daughter, and so. But also in the town, there's some strange things going on. Like there's an earthquake that happens every so often, every day, and that Egon was onto something. Is what the kids find out is that Egon was onto something, and that something was built underneath the town, like down in this little cavern. And of course, it was built by it was built by a scientist by the name of Igor Shandor. Yes, going back to the first movie, okay, how he built Dana Barrett's apartment. Well, there's a whole temple underneath this small town, worshipping Gozer. And so you find out that the main villain is trying to lure in Gozer, but this time it is the kids who have to battle this whole thing. And there's not only do you meet Egon Spangler's grandchildren, but you also meet a few other characters. You also meet a character by the name of Podcast. I'm trying to think who he was. He's played by a new child actor, but yeah, I can't think of his name right at the moment. But there's a character named Podcast, and he's just, you know, he's a kid that does podcasting. That's why he's called Podcast. And then you have a character played by Paul Rudd. Mr. Gooberson. He plays a science teacher for the school that the kids go to, and it's really strange because my parents would never allow a science teacher like that, because all he does is wheel in the TV and lets the kids watch horror movies. Yeah, my parents would have thrown up a red flag on that, because wasn't allowed to watch horror movies, and he shows them Child's Play and Cujo. Yeah, that wouldn't have been tolerated. So. But as things go on, you know, there's several things that appear that are very reverent to, that are throwback to the original movie. First of all, the main villain is Gozer, but also you have the Terror Dogs making their appearance. You don't just have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. You have little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men. And they're kind of cute looking, but they are not nice. Okay, but yeah, and you also have the things like you have the possession of Zool and the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper, and I'm not going to spoil who that ends up being, who ends up inhabiting those evil spirits, and then also you have into the mix the original Ghostbusters team. Um, yes, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, and even Sigourney Weaver and Annie Potts show up in this film at some point in time. Uh, no Rick Moranis, unfortunately, but you definitely have the three main Ghostbusters showing up at the end and helping the kids fight Gozer. Now, all that being said, this movie definitely is a love letter to Harold Ramis and to the original movie. McKenna Grace does a fantastic job of playing Phoebe, the who's the main girl. Um, she is most likely a reflection of Egon. Okay, she has kind of a similar hairstyle. She's into science. She's into building things, and while you have Trevor Finn Wolfhard, he's just a basic teenager. Basic teenage boy. He's doing whatever teenage boys do. And another thing is, he's into girls and cars and stuff like that. And so, yeah, but the film is definitely a love letter to the original film. Um, they tried to make this movie as if they could make it back in 1984. Now, the thing of it is, they did use modern day visual effects to tell a story, which is completely CGI. But what they did really well, and this is to the fans, is that it is CGI, but they made it look like the effects in the 1984 movie. As a matter of fact, when there's a point where ghosts break out of traps and whatnot, the visual effects house took references from the original movie, and like how there would be a streak of light across the screen representing like a ghost that's moving or flying by. They digitally took that and put it into this movie. That way, it has that same look. Even when the gatekeeper and the keymaster turn into terror dogs towards the end of the film, their transformation looks the exact same way that Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis look like when they transform. It doesn't. They do manage to pull off a few things that they could not do in the original 1984 film. Like there's a specific scene in which they are with the proton packs. They're zapping Gozer, and at one point they cross the streams, which happens in the original movie, but in this film, Gozer pulls the streams back apart. They couldn't do that. They didn't have money or the time to do that in 1984, so it's done in this film, but it's done with care. And this is I'm sorry, I gotta bring up the female Ghostbusters. This film, Ghostbusters Afterlife, is clearly all about the nostalgia. But it's like a love letter to that. While the female Ghostbusters Answer the Call, was was also built on nostalgia, but however, it was forced nostalgia. Like, Ghostbusters Afterlife has the things like, okay, here's the proton packs. Here's the Ecto-1. And, okay, yeah, we have the proton packs, we have the Ecto-1, we have the traps, we even have Gozer. But it's actually using that stuff to their advantage and help moving the story along. While the Ghostbusters Answer the Call was more like, huh, we're getting a group together, calling ourselves Ghostbusters. Here's Bill Murray. Here's Dan Aykroyd. Here's a bust of Harold Ramis. Here's this. Here's that. Okay, we have all those elements. Why isn't this working? Because it was just there to be there. The items are there to move the story along because they need those proton packs. They need those traps. They need the Ecto-1. They need Bill Murray. They need Dan Aykroyd. They need Ernie Hudson. They need all these elements. Instead of just, there's that, and there's that. That's what happened in Ghostbusters Answer the Call. They even say that even that film went to as far as, here's Slimer and here's doing what he's doing. While this new one didn't even have Slimer in it. It has a new character called Muncher, which is basically a newer Slimer. Okay, it leaves the ectoplasmic residue and it eats about everything. Same as Slimer, okay? But the thing is, they didn't bring back Slimer. They brought in this new character, and they do need this character to show that, hey, this is how we're going to catch ghosts, and to show what this character does around the town. So, and it's fun. This movie was just pure fun, as well as a love letter to the original movie and to Harold Ramis. And even before the movie ends, it says, for Harold. And, it's because he was a friend, and it was tragic what happened to him, but that's life. We're caught up in life and death, but in the film does pay kind of a nice homage to the original movie, as well as being a loving tribute to Harold Ramis. And so, and it's just a fun movie, and you can tell that this was handled with care, as opposed to Ghostbusters Answer the Call. This movie was actually handled with care. Now, I say that, but I've got to be careful how I don't want to say that Ghostbusters Answer the Call was completely careless, because when that movie came out, I actually thought it was better than what a lot of people perceived it to be. As a matter of fact, I tweeted the director, Paul Feig, and said, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I actually enjoyed it for what it is. If you forget that it's a part of another franchise, I think it would work on its own, but unfortunately it didn't. This was the movie that they should have made. Was this. Even when they were announcing that they were going to make a third Ghostbusters movie to begin with, and I was in college at the time, I had just purchased Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 on DVD. And so I was constantly watching those and just remembering how good they were. And they announced that, and I immediately, in my own head, was thinking up a Ghostbusters story for myself. And even my story was not going to have the original cast. Was not... Well, I shouldn't say that. It was going to have the original cast, but it was not going to be the original Ghostbusters. It was going to be a new generation passing the torch on. And actually, my idea was very, very similar to this. It was going to be... Actually, it was going to be... I was going to continue on, because I thought that Ghostbusters 2 should be continued on with having Dana and Venkman get married and raise Oscar as their own child. And so I was going to make it, in my head, it was going to be Oscar and his friends being new Ghostbusters. But that was just my idea. It's the other thing was that he had gotten close, that Oscar had gotten close to Venkman, and so he was his father in a sense. And somehow, I forget how, but Venkman was going to be lost in this, he was going to be lost in this world that's interdimensional world of, you know, between, you know, reality and the spiritual world, and he's trapped in there. That was my idea, and it, you know, obviously I don't work in Hollywood, and I'm not, probably not even going to, but yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Do check it out. It is available on Ultra 4K HD, Blu-ray, DVD, your favorite streaming services. And, yeah, just have fun with it. It's really a pleasant treat. So, do enjoy. So, from me to you, see you later.